What's going on, guys? Seth here for Tasty Loot Gaming, bringing you my impressions of the Diablo 4 beta. It has come, it has gone. I played it quite a bit, and I have some opinions on this. Now, before we talk about this, two things I want to bring up. Things I will not be criticizing of the game itself, but something I need to know is the beta did have some technical issues. I won't dock the game for this because it is a beta. This is an early build, and I can't really, blame them for some of the network issues that I experienced, because I have to hope they are going to fix this by the time the game comes out. But I did experience some substantial random lag that happened all the time that seemed network based, and I heard a lot of people complain about the same thing. So hopefully they can smooth that out by the time the game releases. And I expect this. It's a beta. They're testing the game. So even though I did run into a lot of these issues, I won't be docking it for that. And then second thing I want to bring up is I have both pros and cons to be saying about the Diablo 4 beta, the game itself, and things that could change later. But if you agree or disagree with anything I have to say here, this is purely based off of me playing, first off, one class. I only played the rogue in the beta because I had a lot of other things to be doing, and I'm also playing a lot of hunt right now, and that's all I want to play. So
got fucking
another guy.
I did get my rogue to level 21. I didn't even get to 25. I got to 21 because I wanted to hit 20. Kept playing a little bit. And so, yeah, my opinions are based off of that solely. And the beta itself, which only allowed us to get to 25. So I'm not even being definitive about Diablo 4. I haven't played it. I played the beta. These are my thoughts on that. So let's have a conversation about it. I know Blizzard games can rile people up a bit when you talk about them, and especially a game that is part of a franchise that is so beloved as Diablo, even though 3 had a lot of ups and downs and opinions on a lot of people, or from a lot of people. This is something I think we can talk about, and I am not married to any of my ideas on this, but I do have plenty of opinions on it. So let's jump into it. All right, so let's talk pros and cons. We're going to start with pros first because I think that's what most people are going to want to hear. So this is the best Diablo has ever looked. And I also think, as of right now, I think Wilson had it for a while there, but this is the best looking I've seen an isometric ARPG ever look. This game is gorgeous. It even looks good up close, and I really appreciated the attention to detail while running around the map. The technical graphics are really good as well for, being so far zoomed out. I noticed in a lot of the in-game cinematics, the details on like skin, which is something you're not going to really be seeing when you're that zoomed out. But, with current technology, it makes sense that you can even, do that. If you want to make these, character models super detailed for the cinematics, I assume. So, yeah, really, really cool to see. Also, the visual style is an improvement. This reminds me of a more modern looking Diablo 2 as opposed to Diablo 3, which I thought was very colorful, really punchy looking, cartoony looking kind of, and I'm glad to see them kind of coming back to a more darker aesthetic. It's definitely appreciated, and I'm looking down because I have a checklist of things I talked about. If you're on our Discord, link down below, I posted a pros and cons thing that I'm kind of using as a template here, but yeah, that's why I'm looking down. So the game looks great graphically on a technical level, and visually the aesthetic is really great. I like that it's having a more darker tone, and the overall art direction in general is an improvement upon Diablo 3. I really appreciate where they're going with it. I also like that they're not holding back on the darker aesthetic when it comes to the story. I kind of thought in the early advertising for this game that they were just trying to get people to come play it, but then I'd play it and they'd be holding back on like disturbing stuff, gory stuff, and so far they're not, which is really nice to see. There's a couple cinematics in the beginning where things are happening to people, and you're seeing like blood hit the wall, and some really disturbing things happen. And I appreciate that because we're dealing with some really creepy subject matter, some really intense stuff, and that they're even going in on that is appreciated, especially nowadays where everything feels like it's trying to be less, I guess, intense for people. It's definitely got a tone that I was really digging. Also, of course, the CGI is great. It's I almost said it's Diablo. It's Blizzard. Blizzard, if they still do one thing really well, it seems like their CGI quality and cinematic quality is really good. But I was impressed with their in-engine cutscenes. This is the best Diablo's ever been, by far. They did a really good job on telling the story in a cinematic way. I was not expecting that. I mean, there's just straight cutscenes in the engine, which I think look really good and are acted out well. The voice acting's great, but there's even sequences that kind of dipped in and out of gameplay, where it takes you from the isometric view down into the game for a second, that I thought were really cool and really immersive, and something I wasn't really expecting. One of the only games I've really seen try and do stuff like this has been Wolcen, and they did a pretty good job on it, but I feel like, and they should be doing a better job, Blizzard has done a better job at this. They have the experience, they have the resources, they got the money, they got the people. They should be able to do this better, and they are doing it better. They're doing a really good job. I was really impressed with that. Kind of going more into the visuals still, the animations are fantastic. I was really impressed with the movement animations. The combat animations look awesome. The enemies look great. The whole world is just, got a visual quality to it that I could look at all day. And if you're playing a game like this, you probably will be. So yeah, overall, just a great visual direction that is a huge improvement upon the last game, and then also a huge improvement upon isometric ARPGs in general. This is definitely a new bar that a lot of people are going to have to try and catch up with if they care to make, a high quality AAA ARPG. All right, let's talk gameplay. I played the Rogue. I got to 21, and it turned into a lot of fun, but the first 12 levels, and I know you're probably thinking that's the first 12 levels, it's super early in the game, it doesn't even matter, but it felt like I had to get to level 12 to finally start feeling like a rogue. Before that, I felt like I was just punchy guy and faster punchy guy, or stabby. Obviously I have knives, but I kind of felt like I was playing the monk again from Diablo 3. I was just, and that was it. So eventually I started feeling more realized, and after that it was really good. It's not the most complex skill tree in the world, and the moves are actually very expected. I never saw anything in the skill tree that really kind of surprised me or got me super excited. But once I started kind of playing around with the traps, the more ranged moves, the teleportation moves, which I really dug, the ones where you can go behind people and stab them, or go invisible and come out and do more crit damage, that was a lot of fun. So eventually it got really good for me, and the combat feels punchy, which I like. It feels like there's impact to it when you're going through crowds. You do get to the point where I always jokingly say Diablo 3 is a lawnmower simulator, because you just start going through crowds and it's just blood flying everywhere. It started feeling like that already with Diablo 4, which, I mean, at this point is kind of expected. But certain situations and certain enemy types did feel a little slower paced, which I kind of liked, except for the bosses, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, it felt good. I felt like when I was teleporting behind somebody, doing the backstab, and just killing them instantly, there was some punch to it. So I really appreciate that. It's always nice feeling like your moves are just doing a bunch of damage and feeling super impactful. Let's talk about the world design and exploration. Now, this is a more open world style game, where you run around, and it kind of feels like Destiny 2, where you run into other players. It's not a full-on MMO, but it's definitely inspired by one. And I already kind of talked about it a little bit, but the world design is really really good. Obviously, the visuals are really good, and the atmosphere. And let's talk about the music real quick. It's great, atmospheric. Unless you're tired. One night when I was playing, I was super tired and it was putting me to sleep, but just so relaxing. But met with the visuals, the music adds a lot of atmosphere that I really dug. But anyway, world design's really good. A lot of intricate pathways. I like the elevation differences where you're climbing up and down things. It's a nice touch. Makes it feel like you're actually exploring a more in-depth world, which is pretty cool. And the exploration is cool because there's all these like different dungeons, caves, world events that I think are okay. But it does feel like there's things going on, always something to do. And in a game where you're going for a more open world style design, you need that. So honestly, I could take it or leave it in terms of like the Diablo experience, but I do think it's slightly better than before's world design in terms of being linear or not. It does feel like I have a little more choice in what I want to do, which I think will be good. I'm sure the end game will have like, something to sit there and grind out on, but like back before the expansion came out for Diablo 3, you'd have to just keep replaying the campaign and doing the same areas with slight differences every time. Got really boring really quick. So the more open world nature and random events happening is definitely preferable. But the design is good and the exploration is good as well. And I have to admit, going to a town and it being like a social hub, seeing people running around in a game that does feel so isolating and creepy and lonely in some ways. It's nice to know other people are there playing as well, especially in a game where you are going to be playing with other people so often. Likely, it is nice to be seeing people and having that option to potentially invite them to a party or vice versa. And yeah, I think it's a nice touch running around town and just seeing people running around, and then out in the open, seeing them randomly, even though everybody was playing Druid and I'd just be running around fighting things, and all of a sudden there'd just be a giant bear with a green name above them, and I'm like, oh, that's another player, and they would just turn back into their human form. I just saw so many people playing Druid, and apparently it wasn't that great. I never played it, but let me know in the comments if you played Druid and you have opinions on it. All right, let's jump into cons. I have some mild cons that I think won't be super controversial, but I have some thoughts on a couple things in the game that I have not heard a whole lot of people complain about, so I feel like I'm going to get pushback on these, which is fine. I'm open to that as long as you're respectful and we have a conversation about it. And again, these are my thoughts on what was presented in the beta, not the final game. So none of this is me saying Diablo 4 sucks and I hate it. Which I think is me being fair because I have my opinions on Blizzard. I'm not the biggest fan of the company anymore or the games they put out. So I do think I have a lot more positives than negatives to say about the game. But let's jump into it. So it's not a huge deal, but I think the world events could be more interesting. There's a couple that were more interesting than others, but a lot of them just kind of felt like keep you busy events that while you're running around, it's a distraction to kind of fluff up the time. And after playing Diablo Immortal, I was kind of worried we would see stuff like this, and I'm not opposed to world events. I think it's actually better the game has world events than not have them, especially if you're going for a more open design. You need things to do, right? So hopefully there'll be a bigger variety in the finalized game, but a lot of it just kind of felt like, oh, you gotta kill things and the souls got to go into the thing, and then when you finish it's done. And I know these are small little temporary things to do, they don't have to be super complex. That is just go in the field and kill things and then leave and get a reward, or get a reward and leave. It goes the opposite way. And so it's not a complaint. I don't hate them. It's just not that exciting either. So I'm sure if you're playing with your friends, though, and you're talking and just chatting it up and you're like just doing that idly as you're on your way to something, it'll keep you busy. But I feel like they could be a little more interesting. I had a similar complaint with Destiny and Destiny 2. So it just feels like a similar situation. And it feels kind of like Diablo Immortal, which say what you will about that, whether you like it or not. The game is a cheaper Diablo experience in a lot of ways. This is a minor gripe and hopefully something they can fix. My character got stuck on the environment many times, and it's not a huge deal, but it felt kind of clunky, especially for a AAA isometric ARPG, when most ARPGs, in fact, all of them, I can't think of an ARPG where my character was getting stuck on the environment so often. I'd be like clicking around a corner and they would be navigating the pathing to that spot that I clicked on, but they would not always, they would get stuck on something on the corner. My character just sit there and get stuck, and I have to like readjust the pathing. And it was only jarring. It's not game breaking. It's not even a thing I'm like, this game sucks, I can't believe that. I was just kind of blown away that a big budget AAA game like this would be the only time I've really seen that happen in. I was like, why are you getting stuck on shit? So hopefully they can make like a slight adjustment where you always round the corner a little better, or smooth out the corners with an invisible wall so your character just glides around it or something. I don't know. It's really weird because like I'm playing like, smaller dev RPGs, and they don't do that. So it's kind of weird, but very, very small gripe. I just noticed it because I've never seen that before. All right. This is something that a lot of people are probably going to disagree with on. And I want to also note that I played this solo. I didn't play with anybody. And in a game like this, you want to play with people. This game's meant to be played with people. You can solo it, but it's so meant to be played with people. I felt like the majority of the bosses felt like a chore to me. I would be just burning through enemies, whatever, boom, 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 just killing things. And then I get to the boss, and they weren't difficult, but they took a substantial amount of time compared to the enemies before, which of course is a boss, it should be event, but they didn't really feel like events. They felt like glorified enemies. I would just walk in a room, and there'd be a dude in there, and he just walks around, and he's either got, waves coming at me or bullet hell orbs coming at me, and I'd have to just sit there and wail on him. And when you're playing by yourself, he's only aggroing you, so it's just constantly like, okay, I'll move, hit, move, hit, move, hit. And then eventually you get to these little checkpoints in their health bar, and it always just goes, here's 2 health orbs. I'm like, okay, I'll collect those. Boom, 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 hit, move, hit. And there just wasn't enough variety in the attack patterns. There'd be like 2-3 attacks in between these checkpoints. And it just felt like I don't know. It felt like a chore. It kind of felt like a chore to do this. And maybe it's a pacing thing. It felt like the flow just kind of stopped. I'm going through, I'm having fun, I'm leveling up, I'm getting new gear, and then I have to do this event, which I will get something at the end of, but the event itself isn't that great. It might be better with people. If the enemy is like, or the boss is like chasing after somebody and chasing after you, and there's people running around, maybe it'll be a little better, but I was kind of surprised. I legitimately, and I'm not saying this to be like more impactful in my criticism of this, I legitimately was like dozing off fighting bosses, which was crazy. I was like sitting there like nodding while I was playing. I was like, dude, this is like nothing's happening here. And it's early game, right? So like they could get better. So I'm not trying to be too judgmental on it, but this is what I did get from the beta. And a lot of these bosses I fought were just in, generic dungeons and caves and stuff. So they might just be there very similar to other ones for variety. Like, oh, we got to have a boss here. Just slightly change that one or throw it in here. But it was something I noticed. The more main story bosses were slightly more interesting, especially because there'd be like a cinematic there. But yeah, I hope they get better later game. And if there is some kind of big end game that doesn't take an expansion to introduce super late, hopefully the boss battles, you can get to a point though where like you have some kind of fucking meta build and you're going to be just burning through everything anyway. So you're going to like have less time to even think about the bosses. Like in Diablo 3, you get to the point where you're just like burning through everything. Everything's just dying instantly, and then sometimes your character just comes flying at the screen because something one hit you, and you're like, "Oh shit!" and you gotta just go back at it again. So it'll probably be a similar situation to that. But yeah, bosses looked nice, but felt okay to fight against. Now, this next complaint is something I feel like I need to play the finalized game to have a solid opinion on as well, so take it with a grain of salt, but I feel good and bad about the skill tree that I experienced with the Rogue. That's all I played. It's better than Diablo 3. I'll give them that. I was never a huge fan of how character builds worked and the skills worked in Diablo 3. I played that plenty. So it didn't hold me back from playing it, but I think there's much better ARPG experiences out there, like Path of Exile or Grim Dawn or Wolcen. I know that's not going to be blasphemy, or even Last Epoch right now. I have a more fun time character building in those kind of games than Diablo 3. This is an improvement on that, but it still feels kind of basic. I do like that they went for a more like move through this node of the skill tree and then move to the next one. But I don't know if they needed to go that route or not, but it's an improvement, so I'll take it. But I don't know if it's like over balanced or not, but it does seem kind of basic, which is fine. And maybe it gets much better down the tree. I don't know. But with the Rogue, at least, it's like in the beginning, you either choose like, do you want to swing slower? Do you want to swing faster? Do you want to shoot arrows or throw daggers? And those are all Rogue things. That's fine. But then like you go to the next part and it just offers like a couple more moves, but they're all not super crazy or exciting. So they were fine. And so eventually, by the time I got to like the third or fourth little node of things, I started carving out a build that I thought was finally interesting. But a lot of ARPGs I'll play, I get like excited about my build. I'm like, oh shit, this is crazy. Oh, if I mix that with this is really kind of crazy. And you're going to have that experience with this, but mostly just in the numbers. You can be like, okay, I can maximize my, crit chance this way. But move-wise, it didn't feel super diverse in pathing in terms of how, what kind of moves you're going to be using, and that could be different with the other classes. Like I said, I only played Rogue, but it was fun, and it got to a point where I was enjoying it. But yeah, I was hoping for maybe a little bit more, but also I haven't experienced that with like higher end gear, unique gear. So there's definitely wiggle room there for my opinion to change. But in the beta, I wasn't super excited about the skill tree or the skills I was getting, but it is an improvement for sure. And yeah, I'm not going to complain about it. Just something I noticed. And one last thing I kind of want to touch on that I'm kind of in the middle on, but I don't really care like almost at all about, is I keep hearing from some people complaints about the UI. And I do think the UI is a bit minimal and in some ways feels like an early access game or a mobile game. And some questionable things that I'm not sure if I like it or not. Like you open up your skill tree and it's over on the right side of your screen, which is kind of nice if you have like an ultra wide like I do, just having your skills over there. But they have this little button that will extend it over so it takes up your whole screen. I think it's kind of a weird middle step to do to see the whole thing, and I don't really know if I'm going to use it, but I checked it out. But a lot of the menus kind of feel like Diablo Immortal. Not a big deal. They all function. They all work. They don't look horrible, but they're also just kind of weird the way that they're set up. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. So it's not a big complaint. It's not even a complaint. It's an observation. Because like I said, I'm kind of in the middle. I see some people not liking the UI at all. I respect their opinion. And I see people going like, well, who the fuck cares? It works. And I respect that opinion as well. But I do think it's something that you can talk about. So whatever your opinion on that is all valid. But but I wouldn't dock it points for anything. I just think it's kind of weird that it feels it's probably one of the lesser feeling things in the game. It almost feels like it was thrown together. But as long as it's functional, I mean, I'm easy. As long as it's functional, I'm not going to care. I've played plenty of indie ARPGs that have lesser, visual UIs and systems, but it does feel kind of clunky, which I don't expect from a AAA game. And so I'll leave this whole topic with saying that I really enjoyed the Diablo 4 beta, but I didn't love it. And I can't say I'm super hyped for the game, and I know a lot of people are. I keep listening to people saying like they're upset that they have to wait for the game to come out. I feel like it needs to cook a little bit longer, but I didn't feel that, which I was completely open to feel that. I'm not in any position to be like, oh, I don't care. I wanted it to be super exciting and awesome, and there's a lot of things here that I think are really good and huge improvements over Diablo 3. And I played Diablo 3 a lot, so I'm happy to see that and be able to say that. But there's a couple things that, like I said, the bosses, which is a huge factor, weren't exciting, and the rogue skill tree, from what I experienced, wasn't super exciting either. But fine, it was cool. So yeah, I left it going like, I'll probably pick that up. Because I like ARPGs. But I wasn't super in love with it either. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I liked it, and it's an improvement. And I'd like to play with people. That's how you're supposed to play these games. That was my biggest mistake, because I didn't play this with anybody, which I think would have made it a much more fun experience outside of just a more like, I'm going to, just play it to make sure I can have an opinion on it and talk about it kind of situation. Yeah, overall good direction visually. Game plays great. Beta's got some issues that they're going to fix, of course. Hopefully they can do that by launch. And a couple questionable things that I don't think are necessarily bad, but make me go, that's very interesting. And yeah, plenty of room to improve on, and plenty of things they did improve on. So I am overall happy with where Diablo 4 is, especially for the franchise. And I think it's a good start to something that they are for sure gonna fucking support for years to come. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of the Diablo 4 beta. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Do you have criticisms of the game at all? Is there something you particularly really loved about it? And anything that maybe I said that you're like, I can't believe you said that, I gotta disagree with him? Let's talk about it. Let's have a respectful conversation. I'm open to everyone's opinions. Be open to mine, please. And yeah, I think that's everything I got to say on it. Let me know what you think, and stay tuned. We'll have more episodes coming out here soon. But until then, have a good one, guys, and take it easy.